Before we start today's show, we just wanted to share some exciting news with you all. We've launched our own Patreon page. Your donations will help with costs of producing and bringing you a show with better content such as on-site visits to prisons, prison phone calls, interviews, and much, much more. For only $6, you get a pros and cons sticker and pin, a Patreon exclusive episode every month. This could be a Q&A, interview with a special guest, update to a previous case, and a shout out on our social media and your name added to our website as a contributor. It also includes access to our private Slack group where you can get behind-the-scenes updates like upcoming episodes, inmate artwork sent to Bethany, and then you can just chat with us and other listeners. Head on over to www.patreon.com/mouthoffnetwork and select the pros and cons tier to become a patron today.
This week on The Pros and Cons, when a teen is murdered, suspicions arise, and the local culprit will stun the community and catch the attention of the nation. This episode contains explicit language and difficult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, we're the Pros and Cons, two true crime television producers, Bethany Jones.
That's me.
And Adriana Padilla. With each episode, we talk to the pros that lived and worked the cases and also about the cons that made headlines. We'd like to start with thanking our Patreon supporters. Remember, you can support our show by donating.
And it helps with costs for research.
Yeah, it helps Bethany get to the cons that she so loves. It takes an army to send all those letters, and also you meet with people.
It does, each call I get from an inmate costs money. So, postage, the stamps, the JPay, the GTL, the prison visits, it all costs money, but it all ultimately helps. Each dollar helps support. I'm not very vocal this morning. What is
we're doing the show in the AM, so we're still, the coffee hasn't kicked in.
Anyway, thank you guys.
We really appreciate it. As always, the pros and cons are available wherever you listen to podcasts, including TuneIn, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and others.
Where do you choose to listen to your podcasts?
I am an Apple girl, so iTunes all the way.
And we have a special guest joining us today, warbaby.
Hey ladies, we're having a true crime girls weekend.
And where do you listen to your podcasts?
I too am an Apple girl, so I'm in iTunes, Apple iPod, Apple, what do they call it?
Apple
Podcasts all the way. And I've tried to venture out into some other apps, but I just can't get the feel. Can't get the feel the way I've already got it going. So, what about you?
I'm also Apple and Spotify. Because I pay $9.99 for my Spotify, and I like it there.
Actually, I listen to a lot on TuneIn because of the Alexa app.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But I don't have a specific app. It's just really Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm essentially a Luddite.
But remember, we love it when you subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts because it helps other true crime fans find us. And if you want to find out what we're up to or get a deep dive into the true crime news of the week, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Pros and Cons Podcast and at Twitter at the Pros and Cons Show. We post daily about our show and any true crime news you might have missed this week.
Yep.
And you can also email us at the Pros and Cons Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
But we're available through DM anytime.
Yeah, we're just living our best life on social media.
Bethany, and also there's some stuff coming up with us.
Yeah, we not only have Macabre Mondays, which will be at the Golden Road Brewery every last Monday of the month, but next month we are more than excited to be participating in the Cats 5K. And no, not the feline variety. Cats is the only nonprofit organization in the Los Angeles and Santa Clarita area that provides resources to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, rape, and human trafficking. So if you are anywhere in the Southern California or nearby vicinity, please come out, support. The walk is dog friendly. We're honoring some fantastic and amazing people, including Dr. Wendy Walsh. And I'm on the committee. And
that's awesome.
You know, we will also be participating in the National Crime Victims Awareness Week. And so if you are in Los Angeles and see the bus with our logo, take a pic and throw it up on your Insta story, tag us. You know, we'd be really excited to see that.
I can't wait to see some of those.
I know. Can you come out for the 5K?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay. So we're so glad to have you back, warbaby.
Thank you.
Just remind the audience about your true crime podcast.
Okay. Well, I do host the show Murderous Minors, Killer Kids. And I deal specifically with murders committed by children who are 18 and younger. And so that's basically what I do. And you can find me wherever you listen to podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, Google Play apps, iHeartRadio. And you can find me on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Killer Kids Pod, and on Facebook at Murderous Minors Killer Kids Podcast.
Ooh. So I chose this case because the very first true crime series I did was an entire series about kids that commit homicide.
That's the show you were on when we met.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I lightly touch my wrinkles. And this was one of the very first cases that I ever produced. And the case itself is really interesting. It caught the attention of the nation. And funnily enough, before I even told warbaby about it, last night she texted me and I told her what the case was. And she was like, oh, I'm super familiar with this because it's been covered by so many shows.
Because it's just so chilling.
It really is. It is pretty hair-raising. You know, this case raised a lot of questions about juvenile sentencing. And, you know, I think it was quite polarizing for a lot of people.
Which is a really hot topic nowadays.
It really is.
Yeah, there seems to be this pendulum swing where I think a lot of states are realizing that they went way too far when it came to trying pretty much children as adults.
Yeah. And in this particular case, a lot of people feel the pendulum swung exactly as far as it needed to. And it's the case of Cassie Jo Stoddart. And the case takes place in Pocatello, Idaho, September 2006. Pocatello is a quiet, peaceful suburban town. And in fact, in 2007, so after the crime was committed, Pocatello was ranked 20th on Forbes' list of best small places for business and careers. So it's a really nice, homey feel. You know, it's large enough that there's a lot of amenities in the town, and it's small enough that you know your neighbors. You know, in LA, I was joking with my brother recently, like, if there was a crime committed on our street, everyone on Dateline's like, they were such friendly neighbors, we'd be like, we were mediocre neighbors. Like, I don't know.
To Midland at best.
Yeah. So, you know, Pocatello, it's you know, a nice, manageable sized town. And there's a large Mormon presence in Pocatello. In fact, over 70% of the town identify as Mormons. And those that don't go to church or kind of fall in line with going to church or a religious way of life can find themselves a little bit on the outside and kind of as a social pariah a little bit.
So the local high school, Pocatello High School, is like any other high school, with students working hard to get their good grades, to get into the colleges they want to, or to join the military, just figure out what they're going to do with the rest of their life. And there's Cassie Stoddart. She's beautiful with long hair and a happy smile, and she's really easy to like. She has a boyfriend named Matt, and the two of them together they're totally adorable. So there's lots of other teens around, and there's these two particular guys who have similar interests named Brian Draper and Tori Adamczyk, and they become good friends. Brian had recently moved to Pocatello from Utah, and Tori was a native of Pocatello, and they became pretty quick friends. They shared their common love of movies, and Brian, he was feeling a bit alone, so he really became attached to Tori once he felt like he had someone who had similar interests to him, like as a peer. He has a stutter as well, and he hadn't found it very easy to fit in with his peers. Mm-hmm. And he was also, you know, adopted as a baby. And on the other side of the spectrum is the Adamczyk family. They're a typical American family. Tori is considered slightly slower than his peers, so his parents are pretty happy when he shows an interest in filmmaking, and they encourage him to do it.
I think both families were pretty pleased when the guys became friends. It seemed like a relief, like here's some camaraderie and, oh, they have this interest of filmmaking. So.
Yeah, nobody wants to see their kid, especially their teenagers, you know, without friends. You know, it makes you feel really bad. So I can only imagine that when they moved there, Brian's parents were probably pretty happy when he found someone to hang out with.
And it's kind of nice. It feels like Super 8. You know, they have this artistic thing that they can do together and it takes up their time and it's pretty wholesome.
Absolutely.
So during his junior years and prior to moving to Pocatello, Brian Draper found himself engaging with some bad behavior and becoming increasingly interested with school shootings, especially Columbine. Brian's behavior reached a plateau when he got to a school dance and pretended to pick off kids one by one. And how did he pretend to pick off these kids?
With his fingers, I believe, like pointing at them, like as you know how people will use their hands to pretend they're guns.
Shooting motions.
Yeah, I think it really creeped people out.
So he's acting out, but in ways that are scary and disturbing, especially during this time of school shootings.
This would have been a good time to intervene with this kid, you know, right now, because it's a scary thing to do, but it's also indicative to me of somebody who is just, I don't know, feeling pain, feeling isolated, or, you know, it's the kind of thing where it's just like, pay attention to me, please.
Like a cry for help.
Definitely.
Yeah. But Brian wasn't the only one that had dark thoughts. Before Brian became friends with Tori had another friend, a best friend, that began dating a girl, and Tori's small friendship circle grew. As Tori began hanging out with this new group, he slowly began to reveal what was going on in his mind. One day, hanging out in the living room, Tori asked a chilling question. Has anyone ever thought of strangling kittens?
The answer to that is no.
Yeah, that's not a good icebreaker. The startled friends try to shake off this bleak question. However, further concerns arise when Tori introduces his friends to his knife collection. Over a summer, Brian and Tori get to know each other. Their friendship explodes like a 4th of July firework with their common interests. However, the friendship turns down a dark path, and the boys turn their passion of filmmaking toward a chilling new project, a film that details the calculated murders of their classmates.
With a school